Oopsie. There we go. All right, good afternoon. Today we are doing some review of stuff that we missed out on since we skipped over Math 6 to go into pre-algebra. This is some graphing stuff that I've covered in Math 6 that you have not gotten. The couple of pages before you know about. So you know bar graphs and how to read those bar graphs. Right, being able to read and interpret it, knowing how to read those different numbers. Then we had line graphs. Again, you know, looking at our titles, age on the bottom, height on top, on the left for that y-axis, and being able to read those and interpret that graph. I feel confident that you guys are able to do that. We've had bar graphs in our math packets. Today I want to talk to us about stem and leaf plots. This is new. Okay? So it's important to know how to read it if we ever encounter one. So if it is a stem and leaf plot, if you see that there is, you know, the x-axis represents the age of, oh, there's a key here. So the key is we have a 1 for our stem, and they had the 5 for the leaf. So all these numbers on the right are our leaves. The numbers on the left are our stems. We need to know what they stand for. This would be a 0 in our number on the left. There was nothing here, but if there was a number here, like let's say there was a 4 there, there would be a 0 that we put in front of it, and it would stand for the age of 4. We didn't have any single digit numbers in this graph. This one, we have a 1 as a stem, and then we have these leaves. That 1 for the stem means these are all of our tens, the teen numbers. So all of the leaves doesn't stand for the age of 5, it stands for the age of 15. So when there was a 9, you put a 1 in front of it because that is our stem. So they stand for those teen numbers. So when we have a 2 for our stem, what kind of numbers are they? Happy? Yeah, they're all the 20s. So this isn't the age of 3, the age of 3, the age of 6, it's the age of 23 and 23, 26, 27, 28, and 28. Okay. So once it's explained what a stem is and what a leaf is, it's not that overwhelming when we look at it. The stem and leaf plots are always in order. So we see our smallest age, our youngest age is 15. What's the oldest age? Robbie? 60. 60. So the last one here is going to be the oldest, the biggest number. Our youngest age here, the smallest number, is the very first one. So they are in order, just like when we do mean, median, and mode, and we put them, don't distract me. When we put them in order for mean, median, and mode, these are in order. So you'll see 15 is the smallest, and it goes in order all the way up to that 60 at the end. Any questions on the stem? Okay, our next one is more complicated. It is called the box and whisker plot. So if we look at it, we can see we have a box and we have the whiskers coming off the ends. Okay, that's how it got its name. It looks like a box with whiskers. So our big thing to know about box and whisker plots is they are 4 equal parts. Do they look like equal size parts? No. But the data that are going into those parts, it has the same number of data points that go into each of those parts. So the end of the left whisker is always going to be our smallest number of our data. So that's our minimum score. So these were math test scores. So what is the smallest score somebody scored? The smallest score somebody scored on a math test. Amala, 72. What is the maximum score somebody scored on that test, Robbie? Yeah. So that side is the minimum. This side is our maximum. The maximum score was 88. All of our test scores are between 72 and 88. We have a lower quartile. That's the left side of our box. Then we have our median. And that's the line that's inside the box. And we have our upper quartile. This makes up our 4 parts. Part 1, part 2, part 3, and part 4. So our lower quartile would be 75. The median is 79. And that upper quartile is 85. Are you following with me so far?
Yeah.
Now, what do we know about the word range when we talk mean, median, and mode? What does range mean? Luke?
Oh, the distance between the lowest and highest numbers.
The distance between the lowest and the highest numbers. So if we're talking about,
Can we borrow one of the balls?
yes, sir. If we're talking about the interquartile range, we have the lower quartile and the upper quartile. So we're going to subtract those two. So the upper quartile is 85, the lower quartile is 75. So what is our interquartile range? Eleanor? 10. Now we have the range of all of our scores. Who knows what that would be? What numbers am I going to subtract from my full range? Harper? Yeah, I subtract 88 by 72, and what do I get? We can do the mental math, Kyler. 16. Okay. Now here's how we read the box and whisker plot. So we know we have tests with scores between 72 and 88. Now we know there are 28 students who took the test. So if we go from 72 to 88, there are 28 scores. 28 students were there, 28 scores. Remember what I said at the very beginning. What do we know about our 4 parts? They're all equal. So how many scores are going to be in the first part, Hadley? How many scores will we have in this first section? How many kids scored between here and here? How did you get 7, Hadley? 28 divided by 4. There are going to be 7 scores here. So how many scores are between 75 and 79? 7. How many scores are between 79 and 85? And how many are between 85 and 88?
6.
Yeah, no. So, you take your total number, you divide it by 4, that's how many are in each section. Then we can go and answer our questions. How many scored between 79 and 85? How many would have scored between 79 and 85? 7, right? Because we broke it into our 4 sections. So 7 scored between 79 and 85. How many scored between 85 and 88?
7.
No, we're
So
not doing
7,
that.
guys. So 7.
So, not being silly, especially on recording. So each section is that. So if I were to say, how many students scored from 72 to 79, what would that be? What do you think, Becca? 14. Because we know it's 7 plus 7. All right, so you break it up into your 4 parts. You know how much, same equal number in those 4 parts. And then you can work with those numbers with answering the questions they have. The big thing to remember, even though our parts look like different sizes, it's the equal number of scores that are in there. So there might have been somebody that scored a 75, somebody that scored a 79, and then 4 people scored a 78, one person scored a 76. So if it's a bigger section, it just means those scores were more spread out. But there's still 7 people in that section. If our section is really little, it means all of those scores were close together. So our big thing to remember when we see that box and whisker plot is knowing to break it into the 4 sections that are equal numbers of scores in each section. Does that make sense? I don't know.
Let's keep that. So the box is the quartile, right?
Yep. The box is the quartile. So we have our lower quartile to our upper quartile. And that range is the interquartile range. And then we've got our whiskers are the really high ones and the really low ones. So the majority of kids scored here. 14 scored here with only 7 and 7 on those sides. But the bigger number would be in that quartile range. Okay, any other questions? Feeling okay about this? Is there anything that you want me to talk about that we haven't talked about in class yet that you think you might need to know for that MAC test or you're curious about? Anybody have any questions about stuff? And that's okay if you don't. Okay, so these were the 2 things that I really wanted to expose us to really understand. Rocco, are you stretching or are you just, okay. Thank you. Oh, I saw you leaning forward starting to talk to Rocco. I just called you on it. All right, if you are watching this at home, that is our quick little tutorial on the stem and leaf and the box and whisker. I hope you're well, and I hope to see you soon. Have a wonderful day.